First story. The title of today's first story is a little tongue-in-cheek. The father of a discarded boy searches and says, "My husband did not return my calls when I was in labor. My brother pulled a really bad joke. My hubby is now enraged. I won't cut him off, so this is how it begins. My husband and I got into a fight a week ago before our daughter was born," referring to his casual suggestion that our daughter get a paternity test. To be clear, there was no desire or justification for this, it was entirely unexpected. Other than my brother, I don't have any male friends and work from home. When I informed him that he was accusing me of adultery, he said that he was only checking to be sure and continued to bring it up until I told him. I decided not to talk to him and went to my brother's place after he had been asking for 3 days and the stress was beginning to physically affect me. While I was away, I tried to talk things out with him over the phone, but he refused. Following all of this, I went home the following day to gather a few belongings while he was at work, and I gave birth. Before I phoned my brother, who called him 6 times while driving to the hospital and back to pick me up, I had called him 16 times. I began crowning in the car, and the doctor delivered my daughter in the back of my brother's truck because I was too far along to be moved before rushing me in. It was a dreadful and traumatic birth. I detested it all, I was bleeding uncontrollably. Even my brother's wife, a nurse, told me she genuinely believed I wouldn't survive. When the time came, I also chose to have a hysterectomy rather do something riskier. My husband wants a big family, but I've always wanted one or none. My daughter and I are trying to bond, but it's not easy. The important thing to note is that my husband eventually answered as I was leaving for surgery 10 hours after I had called, and he inquired as to why I hadn't returned his call. But my brother was so mad that he said, "This is Opie's brother," holding my phone. "She didn't make it, I'm at the hospital," and switched it off. I was mostly asleep when my husband raced over and arrived just as I was waking up. He began to yell until the security pulled him out, and it seemed they required my signature before letting him return. I didn't get to see our daughter until the following day. My brother defends his practical joke by claiming that he only gave my husband 10 minutes of the same terror he had experienced at my side for more than 10 hours, despite my sister-in-law's opinion that it was brutally cruel and that he deserved it. He also never stops telling him that I almost died because we waited for my husband. My brother used to be largely apathetic about my spouse, but these days, you can see that he despises him. He's been coming over a lot since he doesn't think my husband can take care of me while I'm still mending. When I mentioned that my brother only had my phone because he wasn't present, my husband became enraged and yelled at me. He won't apologize and I won't make him. I'm attempting to be understanding because I know he feels bad. My therapist and I had a conversation, and she said that my apathy is probably not specific to him, but rather a result of the trauma's after effects and lasting shock, albeit she made no mention of the practical joke. My husband is now echoing my mother-in-law's text messages, which claim that my family is extremely harsh and that I should avoid seeing my brother because of the practical joke. I'm not in the right frame of mind, so I'm not sure what to do. Being in the same room as my spouse has been difficult, and I've been sleeping with my kid in the guest room. When he brought up the subject of paternity once, I ordered him to stop bothering me or go live with his mother. I was so tired of hearing about it that I gave up. I truly don't feel like myself, and yes, I'm considering the possibility that I may have post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as my therapist has also mentioned. But I really simply want more views because I'm not sure. Whoa, this narrative has a lot in it. Basically, they were accusing you of being unfaithful, demanding a paternity test, not returning your calls, making you miss labor because of all of this, demanding an apology or getting upset that you hadn't answered his call, and then getting upset with you because your brother hadn't apologized. Then your bloody mother-in-law even got involved, texting you to say that your family was extremely cruel for pulling a practical joke on you and that you shouldn't speak to your brother again. My goodness, yes. Jesus Christ, your husband sounds like a piece of work, remarks the fervent ideal bird. Although I would normally consider what your brother did to be extremely low, I agree with this. My brother despises my husband now, although before he was largely apathetic towards him. He's been coming over Because he doesn't trust my husband to take care of me while I'm still healing. You can see it in his face when my husband walks into the room. He continues, yes, he watched his sister terrified in pain, very nearly slowly bleeding to death in agony, all because a selfish man-child of a husband couldn't give a damn. To be honest, I believe he is acting rationally. Currently, one of my brothers is most likely in jail if something had occurred to me. Although I understand that Redditors are eager to suggest divorce, I find it hard to understand why you would want this in your life. To be honest, I wouldn't communicate with your husband or his family. Put your healing and your newborn's needs first. According to Cancer Athena, your husband wanted to punish you with the paternity test and ignoring your calls, thus it sounds like your brother and sister-in-law are on your side. He wants to cause you pain. He desired to be in charge. The risk of labor was known to him at that time. Instead, it was your brother who punished him. The fact that he lost is the reason he is upset. Your brother's actions are acceptable to me since I believe your husband's actions in a life-threatening circumstance called for something drastic. Your post suggests that your man is not a decent person. You are a homebody who works remotely and has no male buddies. He convinces you to remove your brother from the situation. When you're alone, exhausted, recently gave birth to a baby, and have little support, he has complete authority over how to mistreat and dominate you. The next person out will be a therapist. Your brother genuinely cares for you, so you should move in with him. Your spouse doesn't. You've experienced severe psychological and physical trauma. Both you and your daughter merit better. It's her first few weeks on the planet. I apologize, and Vomitus Rex adds, go no contact with your husband and make him earn his way back in. Even after all of that, after you delivered delivery, your spouse continued to bring up the paternity test. Christ riding a bike? The story is as follows, with punctuation added, there are a ton of reasons why you should divorce him. Although what your brother did was quite terrible, in all honesty, I don't really blame him given the situation. The husband is incredibly self-centered. This self-centeredness endangered your life. Although your brother mistreated your husband, he nevertheless supported you during a difficult period and has been by your side ever since. There was no sign of your spouse. He's doubled down on its paternity test, and is demanding you cut off a loved, caring family member when you've just experienced a terrible birth, instead of offering you a pitiful, groveling apology for how he let you down. What kind of person does he believe he is? To be honest, I wouldn't pay attention to what your mother-in-law, says. She brought up this, Most likely, she wants you to reconcile so she won't have to bring him home. He doesn't seem to be acting in a way that suggests his actions are deserving of forgiveness, so I'm not sure if it's worth it to even try to forgive him after everything that happened. Oh, and just because he feels bad doesn't mean you have to feel sorry for him. He ought to feel bad. And he's snapping at his traumatized, recently delivered wife rather than offering an apology for what he did. What a definite, Greetings on your daughter. I hope you will treat yourself with the dignity that in this case you would like to see in her. Very clearly indicates that your husband is a self-centered lout who only thinks about himself. Although your brother was wrong to play a practical joke on him, two wrongs do not equal a right. Your child will not grow up in a healthy atmosphere if your husband has a history of going completely insane. Unless you take action, such as getting a separation or divorce, you should consider this episode to be a forecast of your future. Your hubby is scary, according to the ground dog emoji. It all began when he abruptly began to question his child's paternity and would not back down. Considering that he has no grounds to suspect you either, that is an intriguing behavior. Either he's projecting his own infidelity onto you, or the reality of parenthood briefly alarmed him. I'm betting on the first one. Why? Since he ignored your calls and showed little concern during difficult times. You nearly passed away. That is indeed serious. Did your sibling cross the line? Yes, somewhat. Had the conditions been different, his actions would not have been justified. However, it's clear that your spouse needed a wake-up call due of his actions, and you nearly died as a result. He has a lot of work ahead of him if you want to keep this marriage intact. But to be really honest, he doesn't seem deserving of your love, between his charges, his ensuing outbursts of rage, and now his attempts to keep you apart from your family. Then OP comes in with the update which says, I can't update the old post, but since so many people reached out, I thought I'd make a new one. So I don't think this will be something we can come back from. I just don't think I'll be able to heal with him because there is no way he didn't know it was me calling. He still hasn't told me why he didn't answer. I know I thought I wouldn't decide right away, but I actually don't want to forget how terrible it was waiting on him, thinking he couldn't possibly leave me like that, no matter how angry he was. I took the time to think of that moment before it all went down, and just how grossly betrayed and scared and alone I felt while the contractions were hitting and I was on my knees trying to breathe through the pain while waiting on the phone while it rang through. And I just don't think there's any coming back from that. I wouldn't want my daughter to think it's okay to stay with a man who destroyed her trust that way either. I will be contacting an attorney and will be meeting with them in the coming weeks. We had a prenup, so hopefully it won't be too hellish. I hope. I feel like this situation became even clearer when my friend asked me if I'd still trust him as the one to sign off on my medical papers, and the reaction to the idea was visceral. I wouldn't, and I want him to get off that legality as soon as possible. In fact, there are roommates I had in college who would be trusted more. I would have never ignored so many calls from him consecutively unless I had told him expressly that I was unavailable at a specific time, and even then. I feel good with my brother and sister-in-law here with me, especially so with her being a nurse, and I haven't been there through the birth. It's really helped us bond in a way that we've never really had time to. I've also finally told my old friends about the baby, and they are alternating to come and help me out for the next little while. None of this even touched the paternity test, but I'll get it for the proceedings, I guess. So, I guess he'll get what he wanted. Anyway, I'm safe and well, and my daughter is healthy and happy as a peach and pretty much an angel. Was happy to sleep peacefully anywhere and took to the boob with ease, which is such a blessing since everything still hurts. Just making this decision has taken an odd weight off my shoulders, and my sister-in-law has been really helping us bond. Anyway, thank you for letting me write this out, and I'm not good at diaries or journals, but writing to people feels different, and that's actually brilliant for the clarity of the situation. Even my therapist said that I seem clearer and calmer. I might try a diary again as she suggested, and it's really one of those situations where I couldn't have seen it ending in any other way. It's like one of the comments said, Reddit goes to divorce a lot, but I really couldn't see this ending in any other way. How can you come back from that? How could you trust someone after this? Look at that person you know that you loved so much, and they've accused you of basically infidelity, ignored your calls when you was going through a hugely dramatic time, and even, when the baby's born and everything, he still brings up the paternity test, and then his mother-in-law is on your back as well. I just couldn't see myself looking at someone in the same way again. But what do you guys think of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. This next story comes from Dices who says, Am I the __ for refusing to let my boyfriend have my bank account info to make a purchase? And again, of course, it comes with an update. I, female 31, have been with my boyfriend, male 37, for 8 months. He has 3 kids and is a single dad. We're on pretty good terms regarding almost everything. When it comes to money and spending, we'll take turns to invite each other out weekly. We don't live together, obviously. Several times, he had me pay for his kids' purchases. I didn't make a big issue out of it for the sole reason that those purchases were relatively small, and all I had to pay was $30 to $60. The other day, he called me while I was at work and sounded like he was in a hurry. He said he just found the gaming device he's been looking for so long and wanted to buy it for his oldest son. I asked, "What's this have to do with me?" He told me he was short of money and needed $300. He asked me to lend him the $300, and I hesitated but agreed. He asked for my bank account info so he could pull the money, but I refused and told him to wait for me till I get there. He insisted and said he'd handle it, and all I had to do was just send him my bank account info. After I ended the call with him, his insistence made me uncomfortable, so I still said no and told him to either wait or I won't pay. He got mad at me, saying he didn't get why I was acting like this. He got so loud I had to hang up. I found him sitting outside after I went home. He was waiting for me and was extremely upset. He asked why I didn't just send him the account info so he could pull the money we agreed on. I told him I don't feel comfortable letting anyone have my personal info, especially when it comes to finances. He got offended and said, "I'm not just anyone, I'm your partner." Then he went on a rant about how I ended up not paying for the gaming device after looking for it for so long, and now his kid is mad at him, and it was my fault. We had a fight, and then he left and told me I better have an apology for him and his son next time I call his phone. I haven't had a call yet, but I feel like I acted stupidly and irrationally. I think I should have just given him the info he asked for. I don't know if I made the right decision. I was trying to think which gaming device costs $300 and is in high demand right now. I can't think of anything other than, the PlayStation 5, but that's a lot more than $300, I think. I mean, we might be talking about a Nintendo Switch here, but I think you can get those pretty easily these days. I might be totally wrong on all of that, but that just popped into my head as I was reading. That's thinking, what is it? But absolutely not the in this situation. He's been with you for 8 months and is demanding money to spend on his kid. And I hate to be harsh, but if he's that short on money, he shouldn't be spending that amount because you ain't gonna see that back anytime soon. If he's short on that now, he's gonna be short on that next month, and the month after, most likely. And trying to rush you to send the info over, then get angry when you refuse to do so. I mean, he got loud on the phone, so loud that it caused you to hang up. Think about that. And after you hung up, he didn't just leave it, apologize for, acting so entitled and shitty towards you. He turned up outside your house, sitting outside to have another go at you, saying, this is all your fault. I'm not anyone anymore. I'm your partner. And carried on with the accusations that this is all your fault for doing this, and next time you contact him, you best have an apology for him and his son. Holy moly. I got the solution to this one. Just don't contact him again and just let him piss off into the distance. But a singing stream says, oh, hell no. After just 8 months of dating, he's already requesting that you give him access to your bank account and lend him money. It sounds to me like the little purchases he made you complete for his children's belongings was his ploy to gain your trust before asking for a larger purchase, which you would then be accustomed to and not hesitate to accept. It was him who acted irrationally, not you. He must wait until he has the money if he cannot afford it. My own mother would never ask for my bank account information, and I wouldn't give it to her, much less a partner I've been seeing for less than a year. The honeymoon phase ends after a year, at which point the person begins to show all of their imperfections and true colors. If this is how he acts at 8 months, when he's still displaying his best qualities to you, then what will he be like in a year? Then, what will he be asking for? What will he tell you that you must purchase immediately? When you expressed that you weren't comfortable, he acted abusively by yelling and shouting at you. He completely crossed a line that any sane person would have recognized. Oh no, again, what a mess. He ought to be saying sorry to you. It was not the that behaved so dreadfully. Not the in total. Lewis v. 25 says, not the that has red flag written all over it. The request to pay for his kids, red flag. The demand for money, red flag. The demand for your account info, red flag. The anger when told no, red flag. The demand for an apology, red flag. The waiting outside your house, red flag. The gaslighting, red flag. And only 8 months into a relationship to ask for money, red flag. With Zelle, Venmo, etc., there is no need to give anyone your account info. Please do not do this. It's how people get all their money stolen. You don't owe him anything. If you gave him the money, you may never see it again. All the requests will get bigger. 300 for a game is not an emergency. Rethink this relationship. It will only get worse. C says, not the __, tell him to pound sand. Holy moly, we ain't had a pound sand in a while. You can also kick some rocks as well and hide your checkbook because all the necessary information is on your checks. OP says, I have all my belongings secured, so I'm not worried about that. More than how he reacted to me setting, in my opinion, this boundary. He hasn't stopped guilting me about it. It's hard to deal with, especially when the kids are involved. I love them and don't want them to think I'm not willing to help. And one more from Mem172 says, not the __. You've been dating this man for less than a year. Some partners wouldn't even have met the kids at this point. But he's regularly dinging you for expenses related to them, which I bet won't seem quite so small if you add them all up. Even though he's the dad, and that should be part of his budget automatically. Now he wants you to cover a major purchase that in no universe can be considered essential. He wants unrestricted access to your bank account to do this, and he somehow made you feel like the unreasonable one for trying to pump the brakes and propose alternatives. Throw the whole man out and really spend some time sorting through why you think you were the irrational one in this scenario. If not, I'm concerned that you'll simply keep running into boundary stompers and won't realize it until your bank account is empty, your self-esteem is destroyed, and you have nothing to show for it. Then the OP comes in with the updates, and I'm like, wow. I left this thread after the first hour, but I came back to hundreds of people interacting. Well, I'm just amazed, and since so many of you wanted to know what happened, I went to his place and spoke with him and his oldest son. It turns out that he wasn't serious about the gaming device, and that he was just using the money to pay for another friend's car repair. You can imagine my reaction when he confessed and admitted that he had to lie about his kids to get me to lend him the money. I blew up at him and left without giving him a chance to respond. He tried calling my phone again, but I said that I needed some time to process what had happened and to truly reassess our relationship. It's true that he had me pay for the kids in the past, but after what I discovered, I wouldn't rule it out. Those $30 to $60 purchases weren't for the kids, as I haven't seen the stuff he claimed he bought for them. I need some space and quiet, though, and even though I'm busy at work, I try my best to stay focused. Quite frankly, I don't know if I can move past this. It's just so unsettling that he has no problem lying to me and using me for money in such a way. I love the kids, I adore them, but him? He's just hurting me with what he did, and I'm not sure I could recover from it. I might just be upset right now and need some time to process. I apologize for the lengthy text, but I wanted to fully inform you of the circumstances. Once again, that seems like a really bad situation to me. To start with, he lied to you and said he was going to give some money to his friend, which, let's face it, he would never see back. Secondly, he was manipulating you with the help of his kids. That is just terrible. What do you guys think about this situation? I hope the person in question actually decides to leave and makes the right decision for themselves. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for participating in today's stories. Your love, support, and time are invaluable to me, so please know how much I appreciate it. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, take care and be very, very loved. Okay, I know. Wake up, get dressed, have breakfast,